Well, I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive this morning. Welcome to everybody starting their Monday off with the deep dive. I want to thank you for joining this morning. It's Monday, May 16th. So if you saw the video that we put out there, we're going to talk about inventory, starting to see a little bit of a shift in inventory. Want to see more back, of course, and it's certainly been the topic we've talked about for the last couple of years, the depletion of inventory through COVID. So we're going to talk about that, do the deep dive on that to give you all the information you need to be the knowledge broker to the clients you serve. So let's hop in. Let's talk about inventory. I pulled a few slides for us. As always, if you're a KCM member, you can grab these slides in the KCM member area where we archive all the deep dives. So you can use those as you're talking about these topics out in the market. We'll start here with a quote from Danielle Hale. She says, April data suggests a positive turn of events is on the horizon for weary buyers. If the trend we're seeing now holds true, we could potentially see year-over-year inventory growth within the next few weeks. So April data starting to see this small shift in the turn of new inventory coming to market. It certainly reflects what many of you put in the comments here, starting to see a little bit of a change in inventory. Here's what that looks like. This is a look at new monthly listing counts starting at January, green being 2021, blue being 2022, and starting to see more inventory coming into the market. This time, we're going to see that this time of year in most markets. But what's interesting here in April, what they're talking about is we saw a little bit more inventory than we saw this time last year. Okay, so maybe just slightly here, but a positive sign saying, okay, we want to see more inventory across the country. We need more inventory for this depleted market, and we're starting to see that sign. We want to see that held up. Certainly 1 month, is not a trend. We're not suggesting that, but we want to see that trend continue. More people put their homes on the market. And bringing more inventory back to market. Here's what this looks like. We look at it historically. If you remember, we've used this graphic a lot over the last several months to sort of paint the picture, normal years in 2017, 2018, and 2019 in inventory and where we stand right now. Kind of draw a red circle there over where we're at in 2022. We're ahead of where we were this time last year. Like I said, just by a slight bit. If you remember this slide, we've actually made a correction in this. Realtor.com came back and corrected their numbers. We had it a little bit more ahead in the first few months of the year, but they've come back and edited their slides or their information. So we've made the update as well there. But what kind of stands out to me here is obviously we're ahead of 2020 in the pandemic where we have the dip down there, but we're ahead of last year. So we want to see that trend continue. We want to get up into those more normal numbers of 2017, 2018, and 2019, which we haven't been there over the last couple of years. So if this trend continues, we certainly may see that, and that's what we'd like to see. Go on with a quote here from Danielle Hale. Says, the key to this growth will be the continuation of softening buyer competition and an increasing number of sellers putting homes on the market. I'm going to come back to that softening buyer competition. While home shoppers are still seeking relief from record high asking prices and all-time low supply, when compared to the past 2+ years of double-digit annual inventory declines, an imminent rebound is welcome news, sort of a real estate refresh, if you will, she says. So, she says the keys to growth here are this softening buyer competition. So softening or the rise in interest rates is starting to moderate the market relative to buyer competition. Still, I think in most markets, we're seeing a lot of competition for homes, nothing like it was pre-pandemic, still that frenzy in the market, but starting to moderate that. And we're seeing more sellers put their homes on the market. The challenge that does exist still is just the active inventory in this country. And I'll show you that same look that we just looked at in active inventory here. So this is active inventory, drawing a red circle there around this year in blue in 2022. So well below where we've been even last year, but starting to see that pick up. We want to see that go across the green line, go across the orange line of 2020 and get back to more normal amounts and even, a more normalized, moderated market so that people do have selection of homes as they go out and buy. And we've seen these active listings increase for the last couple of months. I think some of that due to the moderation market and rising interest rates. You see the increase here kind of bottoming out in February, increase in March, increase in April. If you go back and you look at February, March, and April, different story. We're starting to decrease and bottomed out in April last year. So we want to see more and more inventory come to market. We want to see people have the selection of the homes that they want when they're going out to look, and certainly for the health of the market, we want to see more inventory coming in. Bring another slide in here from Danielle Hale. There's a long uphill battle to a balanced market, but it starts with heading in the right direction. And April data shows a lot of promise. So showing a lot of promise in a lot of this data. We want to see more of it come to market. You know, one of the interesting things that we use at KCM that maybe you've used or downloaded before are the maps that show inventory for the last, several months heading into the end of the year, several months. First part of this year, we were seeing, month over month, less inventory in the market. Show you an interesting change that's come up here. This was March, if we look at 2022, but we saw a growth on average 1.6%. Depending on the state that you're in, you can see how inventory has fared month over month in March. Well, when we move to April here, you see a lot more darker blue, meaning more inventory growth. So certainly that is happening across the country, wanting to continue to happen in inventory. And again, take all of this information and use it in your local market. Take your local inventory numbers and combine it with what's happening nationally or even at the state level. If you're in Virginia, where I'm at, you see the dark blue there. Inventory grew by 11% month over month. Use your local information to say, okay, here's what's happening nationally, here's what's happening in our state, but here's what's happening locally where we're at with inventory. So welcome sign, certainly for many buyers that have been looking for quite some time and want to see more inventory come into the market. Just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to Jess for any questions that are in the chat today. But before that, I want to give you something. I always try to wrap up and give you something. Our team has produced a video e-guide. Now more than ever, agents and everybody is saying, coaches, to get on video. If you're not on video, you need to be on video. This guide shows you how to do it and how to get good information out of the market via video on whatever platform you're using. So go to trykcm.com/video guide. And I'm sure somebody will put that in the comments here as you want to link to that. So Jess, I'll pause for a second, bring you up any questions that we're getting right now that we want to go over.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, I did see just a couple of questions come through. We did get asked, what sources do we use to support the data?
I'll show you a little trick on this. Let me see how to do this. I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute. So the question is what sources we use. We use sources all over. Most of the data that has come from today's deep dive is from Realtor.com or NAR. And I'll give you an example of this. Where's a good example? So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. So I'm not in presentation mode right now. I'm just in regular slide mode. So here's a slide that I just used. There's a long uphill climb to balance. This is available on every KCM slide. If you go into the notes, and I'm going to kind of raise this up. I don't know if everybody can see this. Here is the link to the report that we pulled this quote from. So if we go into active monthly listing counts right here, this is a link to where we pulled this from. So in every KCM slide, you can go into the notes and find the source of the actual report that we used for that. If you want to go in and grab more information, you want to learn something else about it, it's in the notes of every slide that we use.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dave. And I will paste in the comments where members can access all of today's slides and the replay. They're going to live in the deep dive archive on the website. And I did see a couple of more questions come through while you were answering that, Dave.
Okay.
Francisco asked, what should we tell buyers who are wanting to wait until rates come back down?
Well, I think depending on what their preference is, I think we will help educate them. That's what I would say. I wouldn't want to tell anybody something to try to make them do something they wouldn't want to do. But you know, folks that are looking for rates to come back down, nobody has a crystal ball right now to say when rates are going to come back down. The thing I would be talking to buyers about is the appreciation between here and there, and talking about when does it make most sense. And it probably, if they don't have an urgency to wait and they say, hey, we want to wait for rates to come back down, the average 30-year fixed right now hovering below 5.5% in this country is not a bad rate. We've done a lot of work on that here at KCM, a lot of graphics to show people historically what that looks like. I'd be talking about price appreciation. I'd be talking about, what the forecast is, and help them make the best decision for themselves, because it ends up, becoming a question of, how long do you want to wait? Do you have the opportunity to wait? Does your family, or your situation dictate that you need to do something sooner?
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dave. And then I see a few questions about interest rates. I'm going to read Scott's, who asks, how do you see inflation and interest rates at 5% playing out over the next 6 months? Will they both be present in the same way in 6 months versus 12 months?
Will inflation be present in 6 months? Is that the question, or high inflation?
How do you see inflation and interest rates at 5% playing out over the next 6 months and then over the next 12 months?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into interest rates. We've talked about this. It's not, I've mentioned several times before, inflation is the enemy of long-term interest rates. Whenever you see high inflation, you're going to see high interest rates. But, you have instability in the world. You have, let's take the last couple of years, COVID's played an impact in interest rates. You have the warning talk of recession down the road. You have the Fed and all their monetary policy things they're doing. So you have all these things kind of circling around. What I hear most experts saying is we're going to top out somewhere the high side of this market is in the 6% range. But listen, as the Fed's action is to tame and curb inflation. So it's going to depend upon that. If the call becomes for the Fed to act, even more aggressively, then we'll see. But I think predicting interest rates right now is sort of a fool's game. Nobody knows what's going to happen in that. So we need to continue to watch. But most experts are saying this market will top out somewhere around 6%. That's the highest they see it going.
I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I am seeing a lot of people in the comments saying they are seeing increased inventory in their areas. So definitely good news.
Good. Well, we'll wrap up on that, and grateful for everybody on Monday mornings that joins the deep dive. Thank you for that, and we'll see you back again next Monday. Take care.